Hello and welcome to this fourth in a series of podcasts created by IMCD, a global leader in the sales, marketing and distribution of specialty chemicals and ingredients. In 2020, IMCD celebrated its 25th anniversary. It started small in 1995 and has grown steadily into a major player within a consolidated industry. My name is Katrina Sickle. I'm a broadcaster and moderator, and I have the privilege of marking this major milestone with four of the company's group business leaders with whom I'm sharing a virtual space. Welcome to Frank Schneider, Business Group Director of Coatings and Construction, to Olivier Champeau, Business Group Director of Advanced Materials. Hello, Olivier. Welcome also to Marco Madadou, who is Business Group Director of Lubricants and Energy, and Fikri Alemdaroglu, who is Business Group Director of Synthesis. These four gentlemen are going to distill their expertise, some insights, and of course that IMCD approach to some of the big issues impacting the industry today. And of course, in this episode, we focus on innovation. And we ask, is it an overused buzzword or is it still critically relevant? So gentlemen, I'm going to ask you to explore with me how IMCD defines and leverages innovation to create all sorts of opportunities for its suppliers, its customers, and its employees. So starting from that premise, is it an overused buzzword? Is it an indispensable mindset? Is it something else? Let me ask for your first thoughts on that. I think I'm going to start with Frank. Frank.
Indispensable mindset, period. Absolutely. You need, the world is in motion, our business is in motion, we need to move, never stand still.
That's interesting because that really plays into what I've heard you say before. We can't be reactive, we have to be proactive, we have to keep moving. I can see some nodding there happening.
Yeah. Perhaps let me add to that. Of course, Frank is right, and from my point of view, it's creating new values, creating value, and also taking risks actually to create that value, not standing still, as Frank said. Yeah.
Thank you, Marco.
Absolutely agree. I mean, I couldn't agree more than now what already Frank and Fikri said. Yes, absolutely. Mindset is what we ask of our people actually, to be creative, to be innovative.
Okay, thank you. And Olivier, you come last. You've heard, agree, disagree? What do you want to add?
Well, absolutely in line with the idea of an attitude. It's being curious, being open for change. So spreading change, also changing ourselves. And, you know, as mentioned by Marco, taking the risk, okay, looking at things with a bright perspective. Risk, yes, but benefits.
So there seems to be a consensus there, and all of the words that you use to describe innovation seem to have a lot of energy to them. This movement, this taking risks, you know, this non-stasis, being bright. I heard the word bright there. So let's just continue on that theme, and perhaps in just no more than a couple of sentences, can I ask each of you to define innovation in the context of IMCD? What do you think it means specifically for this company? I can hear a lot of thinking going on there, gentlemen. As who's going to, Fikri, do you want to comment?
I can start, no problem. So, as the newest recruit, probably I have a lot to say. Yeah. So, as the middleman between the customer and the supplier, actually, for us, our role is co-create together with our supplier, with our customer, and also, let's say, bridge this gap between the supplier and the customer. Of course, an important aspect is to understand the application there, to understand the market needs, and these are all the information, these are all the market knowledge that IMCD possesses, yeah? And this, of course, feeds into the innovation, into the value creation that IMCD can offer.
Okay. Anyone else? Does that resonate? Does that, yes, Marco?
Yeah, no, I think I agree with Fikri again. It's probably our role is to be a catalyst. Yeah, is something that our supplier are requiring, something that our customer are expecting, and we are, as Fikri said, the middlemen. So we need to really show the value behind our job. So innovation is for sure to be catalyst and a booster of what our supplier and customer are requiring.
Okay, so you're still continuing there with all of those fabulous words that really capture an energy that seems to be critical for you guys in terms of what innovation means. Olivier,
yeah,
Frank?
I would say a kind of accelerator of relevant innovation. What I mean by this is, again, if you look at our position, I think we can accelerate the pace of innovation for a lot of our customers. If you remember, many of our customers are small and medium-sized companies who do not have, I would say, very large R&D budgets. So they can rely a lot on us to get access to the innovation brought by much larger companies.
Mm-hmm.
And
okay.
on the other way, we also share with very large companies the unmet needs or the pain points of small and medium-sized companies, which help those large companies put together innovation that really matters, that make really a difference for the end consumer, which is being taken care of by the small and medium-sized companies.
Okay, that's very interesting. I've not really ever heard innovation described for a company in that way, where it really is outside yourselves as well. You are finding those solutions. You're an accelerator. Frank, what did you hear there? What might you want to bring to the table?
When you look at what are the key the key factors that determine our business, or that we determine in our business, it's chemical industry. We're distributors in the chemical industry. And it's about chemical products and technologies, from raw materials to the finished products. It's all about services that we have and can offer around this raw material to the end, in this value chain, in this supply chain. And that means for us, we have to and can influence the raw material side. We can demand or propose or challenge innovation on the product side, on the raw material side. We can also at the same time drive innovation at our customer side. We can challenge our customers to do products that are better facing the trends of the future than the ones that they might have today, or not challenge them, but propose to them and advise them. And at the same time, we have to challenge the services that we have and to bring new ways to bring our products and to also offer our services. Is that we go and visit customers, as we did now for 30, 40 years, with a car, and then we have a big book where we present our products? Or is it that we do it in a total different way? Online, digital, virtual. These are the things that are in much more motion than they were 30, 40 years before. And that determines it.
So I think what I hear from you is that innovation is incredibly wide-ranging, and you've touched upon some elements there, and you've also touched upon what's coming up in our final episode in the series, digitalization. And I want to reassure everybody who's listening in or watching that, of course, we are going to give you some specific examples. I'm just getting a feel from these gentlemen of what innovation means, because it is such a widely used word. So let's hone in a little bit more on some of the areas that you perhaps haven't shared with our viewers and listeners in terms of how innovation defines you as a distributor. Why do you need to be innovative? We heard a little bit about some trends there, but what are the drivers for innovation for IMCD in particular? Who wants to kick us off? Marco? Fikri, you're great. You are fabulous. You are always there. It's me, pick me.
I am here. Don't forget me. Yeah, no, I mean, one thing definitely, which is, let's say, a kind of a pull effect, is that our customers want to be differentiated. They basically want to differentiate themselves from the competition. Yeah, that's the pull effect that we are getting, yeah, from our customer side. Yeah, and they want to, for example, follow these trends. And one thing which Frank also mentioned, I mean, we have really very good suppliers, really great principles. They have very innovative products, but sometimes there is this gap. I mean, let's say that the customers, these small or hidden champions, we can say, they don't get this information. They don't get these new products and where they can be used. Yeah. And this is something that we are then closing this gap together with our chemistry in our blood, basically, and with our sales, let's say, with our sales power that we have, that we can really close this gap between the innovative suppliers and the customers that who wants to differentiate themselves.
Okay, thank you. And you've been really clear there on what your role is specifically as a distributor in your relationship with innovation, which is really what I'm trying to get at. Something else, I mean, Olivier, how innovative do you need to be when we're talking about new legislation, new constraints, new requirements? Is there something in the relationship there?
Absolutely. I mean, let me share with you an example. In advanced materials, if you think about some of the markets that we are dealing with, automotive and transportation or electrical vehicles, all of these markets have in common the quest for lighter materials. Now, when it comes to the industrialization of this, it means that in many finished products, now we need to assemble very different types of materials. Where you had 10, 15, 20 years ago, just different types of engineered plastics, or you had metals. Now you have blends, or you need to assemble metals with carbon fibers, with different kinds of plastics, etc. So the traditional ways of assembling, they are no longer working. You need to invent something else. And this is where adhesive solutions are coming into play. But adhesive solution, it's not just you put together two pieces. There is real chemistry behind. And this is where, you have new constraints, you have new regulation, you have customer expectations. Now we come into this space to help people put things together, make them more efficient.
I like that word. We got efficient, but you also said invent things. And I just want to stick for a moment. Thank you for those concrete examples there. These external influences, these external drivers. What about some of those big global challenges? Are they forcing you, and you as a distributor, chemical distributor, to be innovative? I'm thinking about the energy mix. I'm thinking about sustainability. We've already touched on digitalization. Frank talked about trend reports. Marco, you're nodding there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Energy, for instance, is a very close topic to our business group, because we just changed, in the beginning of the year, the setup of our business group, and we saw into the energy requirements in the sustainability and in the raw materials, on the renewable raw materials requirements, a very good opportunity for us. And we do need an innovative mindset to approach that. I think innovation is part of our daily job. It's not just related to products, but also to the service we give. I mean, innovation is in our logistics setup. Innovation is our people education. I think everything brings into the final outcome, which is bringing the value and not just become different, but become better than others.
Okay, I'm going to move on. Unless, Frank, you've been incredibly sort of Sphinx-like.
Yeah.
So
just take a very funny example also. But these are, and here you see how things evolve. 40, 50 years ago, we still used paints that were highly solvent containing. And it was great to work with these paints. When you painted your inside walls, it was fantastic because it dried fast. But then you had all these solvents in the air. So everybody said we need to move to water-based. And then everybody moved to water-based and said, okay, cool, very innovative, sustainable. Water-based paints is the new era of painting. But then you notice that when you use this paint, it starts, as there's water in that, it starts fouling at a certain, you see microbial developments in your paint that you don't want to have. Then all of a sudden you add biocides, because with biocides and preservatives, you preserve your water and you make it antimicrobial. Fantastic. But then the biocide is then much worse than the solvent that you had in before that was evaporating. Now what we have today is, and that is, you try everything to get all these biocides out of your formulations. That is this innovative trend. So what happens if the biocides are out? You will see then another development that also you will have to find solutions for.
So gentlemen, that was a really, really nice concrete example. And I know you've got lots up your sleeves to share with our viewers and our listeners. So tell me some other examples from each of your business groups, and perhaps based upon the trend reports, of how IMCD is leveraging innovation for, as you said, the benefit of both its suppliers and its customers. Who wants to dive in with another very, very specific example? Fikri, I think
maybe I can add to Frank's example where he was talking about solvents and emissions. Let's say I'm running the synthesis business group where, let's say, our suppliers and our customers are very much involved in the chemistry part of it. It's less on the formulation, but really, let's say, on the chemistry. Yeah. And they are asking us, let's say, to have reduced solvent emissions or reduced styrene emissions, which are, let's say, not healthy. And it's not just you can do it at the formulation stage, but how we can also support our customers is that they can use a different resin. Yeah, they can use not a standard resin that they have been using since 20 years. No, there have been developments from our principles that we have now offered our suppliers so that they can already at the resin making stage, resin production stage, they can have reduced emissions. This is good for sustainability, this is good for health, and also it's the legislation which is very, very important that we need to take care, yeah?
Okay, I'm going to park it. I'm going to do this a little bit more like a sort of TV show style. We are the IMCD team, and we have just 3 minutes to put across as many concrete examples to paint that fabulous picture of IMCD as we can. So Marco, over to you.
Yeah, I want to bring, we talk about a customer example. I want to bring an example that we innovate with our suppliers. So last year we developed together with our supplier a new raw material to substitute one of the raw material of the supplier using our synergy of our portfolio. And that has made an old product innovative. So a product that was produced for the last 20 years became a new product, still competitive in the market and able to, reduce emissions. So that is something that, is probably good to report on the supplier side.
Okay, thank you. Olivier, over to you.
Well, typically, if you look at advanced materials in the world of plastics, one big topic is recycling. Okay, how you reduce the environmental impact. Well, typically with one of our suppliers, we have worked to disseminate a new kind of film that you use in those edible food applications. The key benefit for society is now the new film we have is something you can recycle, while the previous version was not easily recycled. So here you bring a new solution which is more cost efficient and that can be recycled.
Thank you. And just before I come back to Frank, if you want to jump in again, because you kicked us off with these examples, really heartening to hear you say key benefit for society. I think that's we didn't really say that before, did we? That the very, very end perhaps of innovation, and you as a distributor sitting between the customer and the supplier, and how you are an extension and how you are innovation accelerator, really is where is this all ending up? So perhaps with that in mind, Frank, I mean, can you give another example of where at the end of the line, it really is the likes of me and, well, Joe Bloggs on the street who can benefit?
When you see petrochemicals in as such, have a strong impact on our society, because it was also a very strong impact on our environment, and environmental consciousness has heavily increased over the past years, and that is driving us, and that needs as well us to drive things forward. So you have a lot of ingredients, and that's not only about petrochemicals, there's also other ingredients that in their production process are heavily damaging the environment. Look at TiO2. TiO2 is a whitener pigment that you not only need it for white colors. People believe that you only need titanium dioxide to get it something white. You have titanium dioxide in every color formulation because it's the carrier of all kinds of pigment colors. And reducing the TiO2 TiO2 consumption and value or volume in a formulation has 2 or 3 or even 4 effects. First of all, titanium dioxide is very expensive. You take it out, you reduce it, your customer will benefit of that. If you have a TiO2 supplier, it might not benefit of it because you will sell less. And it's a bit of a gamble that you have to do here. But then also TiO2 in production is environmentally super friendly. So the less you use, the more you do for the environment. So we try to offer solutions and formulations where the TiO2 package can be lowered significantly without changing the performance of the pigment and the colorant afterwards.
And that's very interesting, without changing the performance of. I love that. If anybody knows the adverts for the hair with Jennifer Aniston, here's the science bit. Thank you, Frank, very much for the science bit, genuinely. Fikri, did you have another example? I'm going to go into literally 2-minute example bingo here, gentlemen. Okay. So anything else?
I can add to that. I mean, there is also, let's say, sustainability, of course, use of green products is one, let's say, trend, yeah. But there is another mega trend, which we are facing. People are owning less and people are sharing more. I mean, when I was a kid, I wanted to have a car. I mean, that's it. I wanted to drive a car, yeah. But now my kids, they're like, why do you even buy a car when it sits 90% of the time? Yeah, these are the, let's say, generation change which is happening, but this has an influence in the chemistry, because when you are sharing more, you have a lot of common surfaces that everybody is touching, so that you want to keep these surfaces easy to clean. You want to keep these surfaces as antimicrobial as possible. So this is also something that our business groups are really, let's say, working not like silos, but really sharing each other, like together with Frank's group. We are always, let's say, offering our customers a more hydrophobic surface by using specialty monomers that we have in our portfolio, or by additives that Frank has in his portfolio, to have these surfaces much more easy to clean, antimicrobial, so that people can share things much easily. That's
very, very interesting example there. Thank you, Fikri. And I'd like to give Marco and Olivier a chance to just throw in 2 final examples of IMCD's innovative approach. So who wants to start? Olivier, shall I come to you?
Yeah, when we talk about benefits to the society, concrete example, in the world, we are using billions of paper cups every day. And genuinely, people think a paper cup is good for the environment. The problem is paper cups, to stand water inside, they are coated with plastic in the paper cup, making them very difficult to recycle. What we have done with one of our suppliers and one of our partners is we have been able to identify a new technology whereby we can replace the historical coating that we had inside with something which is completely environmentally friendly, renewable, etc. The benefit is you still have the paper cup, it's completely recycled.
Right. That's very interesting. And thank you, because I think also what you say there is you need to challenge some misperceptions you said at the beginning. So in a sense, you need to be very, very much ahead of the curve in terms of innovation and not take things at face value when you are finding and you are co-creating and helping to find these new solutions. Marco, last example, something different.
Yeah, I want to connect with what Fikri said before about sharing and people being moving into sustainable solutions. Yeah, we are doing a lot of work, and we created a task force in our business group on the e-mobility and also into the new fuels environment. So we're developing new hydrogen systems with our suppliers and with our customers, and we're going also to sell very soon a very good concept of reducing emission on fuels, not just in Europe but also in new countries that are developing this sustainable concept, like India or East Africa, for instance.
Okay, it's absolutely fascinating, all of it. It does have quite a lot of an environmental bent, but it's not just that, as Fikri said. There are all sorts of trends. You talk there about the sharing economy. I've heard the words efficiency, the societal benefits. So plenty of examples. And I know that you've got hundreds more up your sleeve, but that's a nice little teaser in this particular podcast episode. I'm going to draw things gently to a close, gentlemen. And I do want to come back to a very important question, which is the key IMCD ingredient that you see as being instrumental in its success as an innovative chemical distributor. And I'm asking you that again because you've heard what your colleagues have said, you've had a chance to think about this. So what would you like to emphasize? What is it that makes you stand out in your approach to innovation?
Well, just not to be repetitive, but it's the capability of our people and the freedom to act we give to them.
Freedom to act. I think that's lovely, because you can't do that. You can't be innovative without it, I think.
Absolutely.
And that seems to be very much a hallmark what I've picked up of IMCD. Fikri.
I mean, what I can say, I mean, having worked with also other companies, it's a very entrepreneurial company here, yeah? And people are not afraid to take risks. And the other thing is, of course, they work very closely with suppliers and customers, very, very closely. These are the, I think, key ingredients how IMCD succeeded in the last 25 years.
Freedom to act, not afraid to take risks, two sides of the same coin, and that real sense of what do they need? What does the customer, what does the supplier need? Frank, you're nodding there, so I think you agree.
Complete openness. Leave no stone unturned. That's for me one of the differentiators.
And is that is that scary, or does that drive you? Is that a bit scary? Or
it drives us, and this is how we drive our people. Be open. Leave no stone unturned when you think about things.
That's a lovely phrase. Leave no stone unturned. Olivier.
I would say the world is Darwinian. IMCD is a Darwinian community, and we embrace change very positively.
I love that. That's playing to stereotypes, isn't it, Olivier? I would say that would be the Frenchman's answer at the end. The world is very, I love it. It's absolutely fabulous. And what I've said before is it's your respective personalities. It brings great joy to these podcasts, but also you share that incredible enthusiasm and openness that you have all defined as hallmarks of IMCD. So on that note, I am going to bring this conversation to a close. It has been an absolute pleasure to explore with you this, well, I think we agree it's a ubiquitous term, but it is indispensable. Innovation is indispensable, but it's very, very specific for you as a chemical distributor. So I hope that we have given our viewers and our listeners much useful food for thought. Let me remind them that this is, of course, the fourth in a series of 5 podcasts tackling some of the big topics impacting the industry today. We have already looked together, gentlemen, at growth, at talent management, at sustainability in the first 3 episodes. And for the 5th and final one that is coming up next, we will look at digitalization. Now, of course, these podcasts are part of a smorgasbord of activities which have been launched to celebrate IMCD's 25th anniversary, which is a major milestone marking over 2 decades of innovation, there we go, and value creation. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, that if you want to discuss or comment upon any of the topics in today's episode, send a message to podcast@imcdgroup.com. And of course, if you enjoyed today's chat, then do stay with us to the end of the series. For me, digitalization, which is what we'll discuss in the next episode, well, it's not an overused term. It's a mega trend. Fikri, that was your word, that even now can probably strike maybe not a little fear, but at least some confusion in the hearts of some industry players. So if that's you, you better not miss it. Thank you, gentlemen, and I wish you all and our audience and our listeners a very good